Ingram Smith, Bud Elliott, back again for another episode of the Nolecast. Bud, got a lot to talk about, a lot of exciting things for one of these programs that's still playing football. Got a nice little conference championship game that we can talk to, bring in someone that's been joining us, it seems like since the inception of the podcast, and Mark Ennis in a little bit here. But yeah, we'll just get started into tonight's Nolecast. We did kind of a delayed instant reaction, quote unquote, on the instant that came out Sunday and Tuesday evening. So we're back here with you, getting ready to preview a game and give you as good of an idea as to how Saturday night might play out.
Excited, man. We've gone to Charlotte a couple times now as guys who cover this thing. I still not a big fan, I think, of Charlotte hosting this game. Like I get it, it's where the conference is headquartered, whatever. But our old friend Skip Foster pointed out it's like the only one of these games that is potentially played in bad weather.
Mm-hmm.
Pac-12's in a dome, Big Ten's in a dome, SC's in a dome, Big 12 is also in a dome. You're out there playing this thing in like 48 degrees and sleep. Great. Love that. And the thing is, like, if you look at the almanac of Charlotte, it's not always bad weather this time of year. But it damn sure is about every single time FSU plays up there for an ACC title game, man. It is
the Virginia Tech game where the weather was so horrible.
Yes.
Way back when.
That was not a lot of fun. All right. Mark is here.
Cool.
Wanna bring him in?
Let's do
this thing. Ennis.
What's up, guys?
What's going on, man? There we go. That's probably a little better. We're not quite so vertical. Long time guest of the program, longtime friend of ours, Mark Ennis. Welcome back, man. Welcome back. How do I get the Nolecast logo off your head? We have guests so often on here that like it's very all right, we're gonna go with that.
Well, I would have cleaned up. I just moved in, so it's cut me some slack.
Nice, man. So yeah, it was sleet. We were discussing the awesome weather that typically we have in Charlotte when you're playing in this ACC championship game. Everybody else plays in a dome, kind of showcase the product. Here's like, all right, 48 and sleet.
Get Tepper to build us a dome,
dude. We need to. Like he
won't even build their practice facility. He's not building us a dome.
Wait, the Panthers don't have a practice facility?
He bailed out of building them one in like Conyers, South Carolina, or somewhere. He's like just quit it in the middle.
Oh.
Like it's half constructed, like during the housing boom, where like those the subdivisions be like half built. It's like that.
Oh yeah.
He's a wild one, man.
Dude, that's incredible. Rock Hill, according we have some Charlotte listeners who are very they're very tuned to the misdeeds of David Tepper. Yeah, we should bring it back to Tropicana Field. That'd be a great showcase for the ACC title game.
I'll tell you what, it's so bizarre. You guys will not, this will not resonate with you at all as Florida State fans. But when Charlie Strong beats Southern Miss in the Beef O'Brady's Bowl in that stadium, that was super fun. Like that was a great, fun game. Larry Fedora coaching Southern Miss in that game. Like that was super fun. But what a dump. What a terrible place to play sports. It's just awful, man. It really is.
Halftime entertainment, like bring one of the bands, you can not pet, but you can kind of touch the Rays as they swim by there in the live tank. I mean, this is
man, they weren't even doing the cool Rays stuff when Louisville played there.
Oh man,
it was rough.
So Louisville's first trip to the ACC championship game. I do want to congratulate you on getting there.
It is the second time though. Second time they've technically 2016 they tied for the Division II.
That was the Deshaun Trevor year?
Freaking Clemson, yeah. No, that was the Deshaun Watson Lamar.
Yeah. Damn. That's like an all-time bad beat to miss out on. Like to have Lamar on that Louisville team and miss out is ridiculous.
And go 9-3 and 8-4 with Lamar Jackson. It's kind of absurd.
You saw Petrino's back at Arkansas.
Oh, I did. Did you see on 3? I think it was. It just tweeted a video where Petrino said that Jimbo made him learn Jimbo's lingo.
Yeah, he made him call Petrino's offense, but using Jimbo's terms, so Jimbo could understand it.
Unbelievable, man.
Although if you cover,
I bet you Bobby
very,
loves
very, very believable.
Believable.
Actually, yeah, that would be my comment to that.
Oh, man.
I have to imagine like that sort of thing. That feels like cosmic punishment for Bobby, right? Like having to learn someone else's lingo. Oh,
I think so.
By the way, do you guys see the long play here that Arkansas? You bring Bobby in as the coordinator. You fire Sam Pittman after like 5 weeks. You give Bobby a chance
feels
to
like a
run
short
the rest
play.
of the year. That's what they're doing. That's what this is. 100%.
Yeah, they've always wanted Bobby back, and
Is there a statute of limitations on these things? Is that what this is?
well, they had to get basically a university president pardon. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
So under Arkansas law, you're not, or Arkansas's bylaws or their governors for the university, you are not allowed to rehire somebody who's been fired for cause unless you're given a special exemption by the university, by the like the university system president or chancellor or whatever. So,
And they got it?
they got it. Yeah.
Man.
Trying to win some football games, Mark. What do you mean?
What-
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Hey, back up for just a sec. It's 2017 Louisville was awesome offensively, but bad defensively, and they went 8-4. But 2018, last year, and I don't really care about what he did at Missouri State. It's been a long time since he had a really good offense. That's the weird thing for me. Is like it's been a minute since he was like a genius. It wasn't like A&M just set the world on fire.
I don't get it on some of these. Like they're looking at
Also,
DJ
he's the worst.
They're like, yeah, DJ Durkin to go be the Mississippi State D coordinator. It's like some of these guys have like secret resumes that I'm not aware of. Like, in what world has this guy been really good? That I do college football for basically every day of the year. I really haven't seen it yet.
Wouldn't it be funny if all these guys are just amazing interviews?
I could see that, but well, not on all. But like, I could see maybe one or two of them being. Oh man,
Just like a weird skill coaches have. They're just like super good at interviews. Tell me about a time.
We thought Mark was going to take a little bit longer to get here because I sent the invite to the wrong address. So I do need to remind y'all that we are on Prize Picks. Promo code NOLECAST gets you that 100% deposit match bonus on Prize Picks. If you guys are following along with the Prize Picks, I know I've been saying like this is not repeatable. It's not realistic to win every single week. It's you're not going to hit 5 25Xs and a bunch of other double ups and quads and whatnot. But we did it again, guys. We hit 5 of 6. That's a nice little double up there. We were 0.58 fantasy points, I believe, away by John Rice Plumlee from hitting another 6 for 6, 25 extras. So, yeah, Chad, one of our sponsors in the chat, we need that one more 25-1 this year. I agree. I would enjoy a 25-1 to finish out the year. Promo code NOLECAST gets you that 100% deposit match. I see Mark pulling out the phone. There we go. Download.
I'm not fool.
Match. Do you guys have Prize Picks in Kentucky?
Haven't seen anything like that. No.
Okay.
I mean, it just mobile betting just became legal in October in Kentucky. So, I don't think a lot
not betting.
features have been
Daily fantasy sports.
Yeah.
Just to be clear. All right. So we talked at AC Media Day when we were all up there. And like as soon as the schedule came out, I think I was texting you like, "This is an opportunity. If Brom can get enough." Clearly, like you could foresee something like this record wise. Is this team like the actual team, irrespective of the scoreboard type stuff? Is this team as good as you thought it was?
Yeah, they're as good as I hoped they would be. And I think everyone around here started to see and kind of have the same sense that they must think they really have a chance at something this year, because it was after spring practice. They loaded up. They hit the portal again after spring, kind of buttressed offensive line depth, added a couple more pieces in the secondary on defense, and then added 2 more quarterbacks in Harrison Bailey as a walk-on. But then Brady Allen came over from Purdue as well, and you kind of just started to get this feeling like they must think they've got something right now. And there was way less attention, I think, kind of paid to like the long term. And it was like, let's how can we maximize this right now? And I think the schedule was a really big part of it. Louisville went 7-5 last year, and I mean, but the ACC, like the distance between 13-3 is not nearly as far as it would be almost anywhere else. That Louisville just didn't need to be a whole lot better than they were a year ago to win a lot more games. And that I think that's what they did. They got marginally better in a bunch of little places, had a little bit of luck, let's be real, and took advantage of the schedule that they had. Although I would add, before the year, there's a lot of talk about no Florida State, no Clemson, no North Carolina. Clemson, North Carolina didn't turn out to be what we thought they would be. So be it. But I think they really did look at this and think, hey, we've got a chance to do something the most years the schedule won't allow. Let's go ahead and try to take advantage of it right away and hit the ground running. And they've been able to sort of hit that inside straight.
Oh, sorry, Grant. I thought you were going next. What's the identity of this team to you? Like for FSU fans out there who have not watched them or not watched them much, I mean, like national TV games, FSU fans probably watch them against Miami and maybe against Notre Dame. But like, what's this team's calling card?
Running the ball in defense. I think they don't ask Plummer to throw it a ton. And I think their worst games this year are the games where he threw it the most. The Pitt loss and the Kentucky loss. And when they can run the ball, stay kind of ahead of the chains, throw on play action, that sort of thing, they're really, really hard to defend. But they've not really asked Jack Plummer to light it up. He's been a true game manager. You go and look at like the win against Notre Dame or the wins against Virginia Tech and Duke. Plummer was like 12 of 19. Or 14 of 17 or something, nothing crazy. And it was really Jawar Jordan and Isaac Garindo running the ball and then playing, I think, really good run defense and getting after the quarterback for most of the year. I think that's where I would say, like, this is what they are. And they throw under control, situationally, just opportunistically, but they're not an air it out kind of Brom team like you would kind of think of those Purdue or Western Kentucky teams were, at least not yet. And then I think early in the year, they had really reliable, good special teams play as well. And I think the offense has kind of stayed, but injuries have been a little bit of an issue. But the defense and the special teams have sort of taken a step back. And I think that kind of corresponds to what happened with Kentucky.
Where would you say injuries have impacted a team as they prepare for their 13th game of the season? Is there anywhere where it's particularly clustered?
I think at various times, guys on defense, but really it's more than anything else. It's Jawar Jordan and Jamari Thrash, both your best receiver and your explosive running back. I mean, you saw Jawar's not big at all earlier in the year, and he would. I was kind of like, wow, he breaks a lot of tackles, and it's kind of the first time I've really thought about a guy breaking tackles by being fast. Like, gets guys to take bad angles. Go watch Notre Dame. Them safeties are like, what? Like, just underestimating him. He's kind of a flat-footed runner, but he's really fast. But you can just tell he is not right. He doesn't have near the explosiveness that he had, I think, earlier in the year, and they've had to rely on Garindo and even Maurice Turner, a third string back, a little bit more. That's where I think it's taken some of the big play starch out of the offense. Louisville, I would not say earlier in the year that Louisville had a big, efficient offense. It was a big play offense, and they would finish drives well, but it was a lot of explosive plays, and they've had to be a little bit more methodical in the second the second half of the season, and it hasn't been quite as great as it was early in the year.
With Jamari and Coleman, early in the year, I felt like we would bet Jamari a lot or pick Jamari a lot rather on Prize Picks, and he would generally come through. Georgia Tech game, I think, was pretty good for us there. It seems like the volume of targets has gone down with the injury. Do you think they filled that void, or is it just like not really replacing Jamari Thrash if his hand's not 100%?
Well, I don't think there's anybody else that's like really as explosive, kind of over the top. Amari Huggins-Bruce maybe to a little bit lesser extent, but Thrash he's a great route runner. He's really technically sound. But when he hurt his hand, and I mean he had a really bad drop against Miami. It was clear, like it's almost like he doesn't feel kind of a part of this, which is kind of rough, for a wide receiver. But I think like the book kind of got out on them starting with Pitt. Pitt really muscled them up, wide receivers. They're all kind of wiry. There's no big guy. Chris Bell, there's one. But like Jamari Thrash and Coleman and Amari Huggins-Bruce in particular, like I think teams were a lot more physical with them in the second half of the year, and they're not built for that. And that's where I think Louisville having to run the ball and running it better really helped them earlier in the year. You can kind of take some of that off of them. And as they weren't quite as explosive running it, I think they sort of muscled those guys up a little bit. I know Kentucky certainly did, and Miami did to a little bit lesser extent too.
How hard did you laugh when Miami's corner and safety smashed into each other, creating a wide open 70-yard touchdown?
I've really never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
Because not only did they do that, like they didn't even see each other. You know, they didn't brace for impact. It was, how the hell does that happen? You know, I lived through a whole year of Brian Van Gorder, and we didn't do that. You know, like I've never seen anything like that. Although you guys want a good Van Gorder story though?
Yes.
20. Well, there's a lot, but 2018, that opener against Alabama in Orlando where they got killed. Alabama, like Louisville got like 4 12-men on the field penalties. All of them on defense. And it was because they had a personnel group and a formation with the same name and didn't even realize it. So they'd call for it and just like 12, 13 dudes run out on the field. Just an unbelievable amount of ineptitude with Van Gorder. I've never seen anything like him before.
Do you think that's what Florida's problem is? I wonder if Mark just like if so, you should bill Napier for that consulting job you just gave him. They were at one point leading the country in Gainesville in EPA lost to short yardage penalties and special teams penalties and offensive line penalties. Other than that, though, like pretty good way to win close ball games. You know, and when you're trying to be like Iowa South with your offensive approach anyway, like it's really not great to be completely like inefficient with your penalty.
And as like with fans, if if there's any kind of fan angst with a coach, there's nothing more fun to watch than a team with a bunch of offensive line penalties. God, kill me. No, that's awful.
It's hard because they usually happen like the guys are 300 plus pounds. They don't hide very well, and they happen like before the ball snapped, so it stands out. Just
anything you got giant guys like reaching and stuff like it's hard to watch, man.
Has this team gotten better over the course of the year?
In some places, I think they have. I think the passing game has gotten better over the year, but defensively, no. But I think sort of overall, yeah, I think they have. I think they've diversified a lot. I'd say what they've brought the tight end position along a little bit. They have nobody. Like they just had Jamari Johnson was like a super highly rated freshman, but they're working real hard for him to not turn himself into an offensive tackle. Just being honest with you, he's a big boy. You know how those guys are. He's fighting, but not a lot of weapons there. And they, against Miami, the tight ends had 10 catches. And early in the year, they couldn't have caught 10 passes if they wanted to. So, like, I think the offense has diversified some. Injuries have necessitated some of that. I think defensively, injuries, and they were never good, really good impact guys at the 2 inside linebacker spots because they run that bear 4-2-5 stuff. Those guys have been nice. They've been fine. But I do think Virginia, Miami, and Kentucky, all 3 kind of got to those guys for maybe the first time all year.
So your tight end, this is a total blast from the past. I remember do you remember when Facebook was just committing total fraud with their video program?
Oh, I do.
It totally sucked because like SB Nation hired a bunch of people and had to lay them off. Like Facebook's like, oh, psych. Yeah, these video numbers are totally cooked and not real. You're like, oh, that's great to know since we've staffed up to do pivot to video more.
Yeah, Fox made the famous pivot to video. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. One of our absolute best videos back when I ran Tomahawk, which I don't even think is on their Facebook page anymore. I don't have access because, was Joey Gatewood being like a giant 13-year-old throwing next to Jameis at their camp. Joey Gatewood was like an absolute quarterback phenom from Jacksonville.
Very much so. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it was crazy, man.
Called a lot of things. Called the next Cam Newton. Called a lot of stuff as a early
Big
teenager.
Ben. Heard some of that stuff too. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, that was wild. Malik Henry was there. Who else? DeAndre Francois, DeAndre Johnson, a lot of dudes who did not end up working out too well. So one thing that we've kind of gotten a little bit of crap for from our audience is pointing out, like, we think FSU's defense is really good. But also, like, we don't really know. They've only faced one passing game that I would say is like a good passing game, and it's a really freaking good passing game. It'd be LSU, and the starters held them to 17 points. So, like, your one data point is a freaking awesome data point as far as like facing good passing offenses. But they got like the backup for Pitt. You got the backup who I think you could probably argue is a starter for Virginia Tech, right? You got Syracuse's guy who was clearly banged up, and I mean Syracuse was just waving the white flag all game there. Miami chose to play their backup. Probably a mistake, actually, after seeing how well Van Dyke played the next week against Louisville.
Yeah.
Florida got the backup, North Alabama. So, like, FSU is extremely good at shutting down like one-dimensional type offenses, and I think Louisville's probably the second best passing offense they've seen. It's hard for me to place it, and yet I also see, like, when I look at Louisville's schedule, there's kind of some similar stuff going on here. I think in some ways. I mean,
Louisville hasn't played a bunch of great passing offenses either.
Yeah, I don't like my system has Louisville's defense rated really well, and yet I'm scared to death to bet under here because like I don't. And granted, FSU's also got a backup quarterback going,
right?
But they have weapons and playmakers that like Indiana and BC and NC State. Honestly, Notre Dame, Pitt, Duke, Vatech, Virginia probably don't have. Although Virginia's got the one kid who's pretty good. I don't know. Yeah. Like, is there something that? So you said the teams got to their linebackers. Is that just like, hey, like teams figure out they can run at Louisville?
Eventually. So it wasn't in the first half. It was enough. Louisville held them to 7 points. I think they had 89 yards in the first half in that game in Kentucky. But in the second half, I think Louisville started to kind of over aggressively run blitz a little bit as that game got tighter, and Kentucky just broke through it because Louisville sacked Leary twice. They had like 6 tackles for loss in the first half, and they didn't do hardly any of that in the second half. And that game just sort of got super ragged. I tell you what, it's so frustrating to think about it. But they had like a 15-play, 9-minute drive out of the half against Kentucky, and it's 17-7, 6 minutes to go in the third quarter. And I think they thought the game was over. I think they thought Kentucky was done, and then Kentucky runs a kickoff back, and it just lit the whole place up. And Louisville never really got back up off the mat after that. Frustrating,
no doubt.
But to your point,
what is it that if you?
Sorry.
No,
I think Louisville probably is one of the. That's all right. I think Louisville is a better passing offense than just about anybody Florida State's seen. Not as good as LSU. Like, let's not kid ourselves. But I think you're going to get Jeff in needing redemption from the Kentucky mode. You're going to get some nasty stuff this weekend. Like, I'm sure of that in terms of scheming stuff up. And buddy, I listened to you talking after the Miami game about like Jeff was kind of in his bag with some of the passing stuff they did in that game too. I think you're going to get something like that. In terms of running the ball, especially since Jawar's not 100%. So you're going to get a little bit more. The question will be to me, it would be strictly about protecting Jack Plummer. Like that is, if you can protect him marginally, I think they'll be able to draw some things up here. I think it's going to be a super fun game. I don't know how you guys feel about it.
Yeah. You might have just answered my question there, Mark, but what is it that if you see in the first 5 or 10 minutes of the game gives you a great amount of confidence, whether it's ability to protect the passer, get pressure on Rodemaker or whoever it may be, but what is it? There's a question that you'll be looking for, and if you see it early, you think ultimately Louisville will win the day on Saturday.
Oh, it's running the ball, and I think kind of what Jawar Jordan looks like. If these runs are 17 yards instead of 7, I'll feel really good because that's kind of what it was the first 6-7 weeks of the year. And then he was just human. He's still really nice. Had a 1,000-yard season, but the take the top off part was a lot harder to come by kind of down the stretch as he's been. But Garendo kind of picked it up. I mean, that 73-yarder against Virginia late in that one, that's kind of put that one away. But if they're running the ball and kind of staying ahead of schedule, that's when they get, I think, super aggressive with play action. And Jeff's real good about punishing run blitzes too. Did that a lot this year. And if they're in that mode, then I'll like their chances in kind of a higher scoring game.
I like that. One thing with Louisville's defense that I've seen is just, I mean, they mug the hell out of these A gaps. Honestly, like some of the stuff they do is kind of similar to what Miami does, right? Like it's a lot of blitzing. Like their stuff's a little bit like more predictable / well executed. And Miami's is a little more like crazy and all over the place.
Yeah, it's not frantic.
Yeah, but like they bring a lot of different blitzes, or at least in some of the games I've watched. And like they'll put everybody up there at the line. So like to me, that's a huge challenge for FSU when you have a backup quarterback. IDing that, handling that, make sure that the offensive line is working in concert, with your protection. Can the quarterback get you into the right protection, right? Like those things are pretty key to me. And I don't know how well, they'll be able to do that or not. I like that's kind of what I'm going to be looking for in the first 10 minutes, right? Is Louisville getting free runners into your backfield because you're not handling some of their stuff? And Florida did a little bit in the first 10 minutes of the game as well, and they're able to settle down. But I do fully expect Norvell to be in his bag as well. Like this is one of the things, like, is Plummer great? No. Is Tate great? Definitely not. Do I still think that these are two of like the absolute very best play callers in college football? Yeah. They're generally going to find a way to score, unless the offense is just getting its ass like totally kicked, up front.
And I think Louisville's default has been, or like they've been most comfortable against the better offenses. They're like, screw it, we're going to take our chances with our secondary. Look, they really like the secondary, and they have Quincy Riley and Jarvis. Safe Devin Neal's been really nice. Cameron Kelly's been pretty nice. Storm Duck's been fine. Like they've had good depth, but they've basically said we're going to take our chances in sort of a man coverage, and we're going to come after you. I mean, Notre Dame, there were no safeties. Like they was just, you're not running the ball, and Notre Dame threw one touchdown to a lacrosse player. Remember that?
That was insane. Like their best receiver was a true freshman lacrosse player. Yeah, that was. He was good in the Miami-Dade high school all-star game, like 12 months ago.
Well, hey, there you go.
Go figure.
But I think Florida State is, we're talking about like the best passing offenses. Louisville definitely hasn't played wide receivers this good. Yeah. Definitely not. And that will be a challenge to that kind of default. Like, screw it, I guess we'll play man and come after him. Like Florida State can beat that better than just about anybody Louisville's played this year, for sure.
For sure. And obviously, I mean, when we watch, there's no doubt that like, Keon and Bell and those guys have been dinged, but they're still out there and, still making important plays. Johnny Wilson getting him back was pretty huge. Like they kind of have this tandem thing going a little bit with their DNs and their receivers. It's like, okay, you focus on verse. Pat Payton was the rookie of the year in the league last year and has followed it up with a pretty damn nice campaign, right? Like receiver, it's kind of the same thing.
Are you guys aware of Johnny Wilson and like last year with Scott Satterfield and all that? Are you aware of like what happened there?
No.
Okay, so obviously he ate Louisville's ass up last year when Tate had to come in. And after the game, in the post-game press conference, somebody asked Scott a question about like basically what the fuck happened with him, Johnny Wilson. And Satterfield looked at the guy and was like, is that the tall one? And like he should have just left, because like we've been talking about Johnny Wilson all week and everything, and like every time we would just say his name, the show text line is just like, is that the tall one? Like it just became like a thing that Scott, it kind of became emblematic of like details and these big moments, like you don't even know the freaking guy's name, that sort of thing. So he's infamous with us, Johnny Wilson.
That's awesome.
The tall one.
Graham, I think you're muted.
Yeah. Insightful commentary that Johnny is in fact tall. So happy to confirm that. Definitely.
Can't get that level of excellence in preparation.
No, that was muted for that. You guys want to hear that? You do want to hear that. No, Johnny's one of the few people on the team that you just look at it and you're like, yeah, that's a totally different specimen. Even in a room full of 85 D1 scholarship players, that dude stands out. And he missed a little bit in the middle of the season, but is probably Florida State's healthiest skill position, or at least wide receiver option at this point. So You may see the tall one a little bit more again on Saturday.
Question is, will he see Jarvis Brownlee?
Yeah, Jarvis was back against Kentucky. Was playing in spot duty a little bit, but it was like they wanted to bring him back the week before against Miami, but not totally sure. Jeff has been totally put on tilt about like the field because the right guard Ronaldo Brown tore his ACL in the pregame warmup on that crappy field at Pitt, and like Jeff's like just not basically he's afraid of grass now with these guys after the Pitt game, and he really is mad about Pitt's field. So Jarvis did come back last week against Kentucky and played not the full, like he didn't start, but he was playing in the slot and looked fine. So I think he'll be closer to sort of back to full duty, hopefully against Florida State this weekend. And maybe he'll get his chance at redemption against the tall one.
So Ashton Gelati, like where did he come from? Like last year,
Florida kid.
Yeah, but like last year he wasn't this, was he?
No,
not
like
this.
No, not at all. And I think that I was really worried that if he was going to be productive this year, that it was really just going to, or his productivity last year, that a lot of it might have been due to the fact that they had Yaya Diaby and Yasir Abdullah and Monty Montgomery and these guys. And he just, when would you ever double team him with last year? And so, but they've been playing him a little bit more outside instead of as, kind of a shaded defensive tackle. He's been playing more kind of a true disruptive end role. And he's been great. I mean, he just has taken a huge leap as a pass rusher all year. I didn't really know he had it in him. I really didn't. I thought they'd have to kind of manufacture some pass rush this year. He's a downright disruptive guy. It's been really, really pleasant to watch him sort of emerge as like just a truly disruptive guy.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, it was a weird sound. I don't know.
It was the Louisville Bellarmine basketball highlights that started on the other ESPN tab behind me here. Sorry about that.
Louisville did win. You guys won?
I'm not gonna let that tiny little Catholic school around Barstown Road beat us like they did last year.
I don't even like college basketball. I have been following Louisville basketball just to watch the train wreck that is.
This would have been a bad one, let me tell you, just as a total aside. Bellarmine is the little Catholic school in town here, and it's coached by a guy that was on Rick's staff and coached high school basketball here and is very well liked by everybody. And they play like a Indiana Hoosiers kind of style with these little dudes, and they beat Louisville last year, and they almost beat them this year too. It would have been bad for Kenny. It would have been real bad. Anyway, sorry.
Something that is not bad is the legendary team, 844 FSU Loan. 844 FSU Loan is the number to call. I've called that number twice to get an awesome home loan experience. I think you guys should too. If you're in the market for a home loan, we know over 500 Nolecast listeners have called that number. They got hooked up with Chad. 844 FSU Loan is that number to call. Chad's actually in the chat tonight, so just awesome as always.
Not an uncommon occurrence at all.
No,
but yeah, great to have Chad.
He is hanging on every word, and we definitely are looking forward to watching a good ball game and having calm, reasonable text conversations throughout, I am sure. So, oh gosh. No, they do a great job and a proud supporter of the Nolecast. So if it goes wrong for Louisville, like we talked about, what do you want to see that lets you know it's going well? What scares you here?
The wide receivers for Florida State, because I think if they can win one-on-one, they can win when they're not open. They can that sort of thing. There haven't been a lot of those, but Louisville did do a good job with Concepcion at NC State. They did do that, but they just haven't faced a lot of guys. And Malik Washington wrote the Virginia like he did. He was awesome. They didn't have a great night against him either. But if they're winning one-on-one, Louisville just doesn't really have a counterpunch. If their corners hold up, it'll be a rough night. For Florida State. I think it's kind of that simple. And the other thing is Jack Plummer is, do you remember in The Office where Michael Scott's kind of making this joke where he's like, my biggest fault is that I care too much. It's like, what a lame fault. Jack Plummer's kind of like that. Like his biggest fault is trying too hard. And so he has an uncanny ability to commit a ridiculous intentional grounding. Instead of just get sacked, for crying out loud, just get sacked. He did that a lot. Or all intercept, like just get sacked instead of trying to throw that thing and getting intercepted in the end zone at NC State, stuff like that. It's not like it's like, are we going to get the good Jack Plummer or the bad Jack Plummer? It's like, are we going to get the good Jack Plummer or like the trying too hard Jack Plummer? Which is bad, but it's not like he's being terrible. Jack does not like make the wrong read and throw brain dead interceptions. It's like, he really doesn't do that. It's bad situational awareness and that sort of thing because he just wants to make something happen all the time. He doesn't do a lot of live to see the next play kind of thing. So if he's there, that'll also freak a lot of us out.
I would apply a lot of what you said, potentially to Tate Rodemaker as well. There's some decision making there at times that'll just make you wonder, and then there's a throw that'll just make you go, well, that kid's got a chance to play on Sundays. So you get a little bit of everything from Tate, or at least out of what we think. I mean, this sample size is still small, but guy who wants to do everything possible, and sometimes that'll create a moment where you're just like, maybe we didn't need to try that hard on that one. So,
is he better at anything than Jordan Travis? And I'm not being a smartass and asking you that. Like sometimes, the backup quarterback might have
throws throws a couple routes that are much stronger. I'm not trying to troll here, but like the ball that he threw to Johnny last year over Brownlee is a pass that I don't know that Jordan Travis makes with quite the precision. There are moments at practice where you look at Tate and you go, "Oh, that's a special kid." He doesn't have a rocket for an arm, but he makes some throws that make you think that that guy's got a Sunday future.
Okay, yeah, I'm just curious.
It's definitely kind of see it, throw it type thing. I don't know that the anticipation is like Jordan got a little better as an anticipatory thrower, I think, this year in some spots. So like definitely Norvell will have to scheme it open more for him, to be able to trust it and see it. But if he sees it, he can get it there. It's not quite like Van Dyke where it's got to be there. We're just playing 500. But
I will say in games this year where Louisville played a quarterback fairly inexperienced, they didn't do very good at all. Like the times where you would kind of expect like, hey, they might be able to sort of be really exotic and really mess with this guy. It didn't work at all. There at Pitt, it didn't work. Calandria handled them just fine against Virginia. Although I think
Calandria is insane.
I know, but he's good though, man. Like I like him. I really do.
He's good in that like 3 turnover, 3 touchdown. Like, holy cow, how did we not get this guy on the ground? Like, how is this still a game type?
Where would you like to see him play? Like, who would you like to see coach him?
He is probably the closest thing I've seen to like Johnny Manziel.
Okay.
As far as like not a big guy running around, insane throws, insane turnovers. Like just
he's a chaos agent. Like he really is.
Was it Maryland? He threw interceptions on 3 consecutive throws. Like, I mean, UVA was up, and the 2 of them were just like the worst decisions. They were like double coverage and late, but other than that, they were pretty good. And I mean, it was kind of, I don't know where I'd want to see him play. He's from Lakewood and St. Pete.
So I mean, you want him to go play for Gus?
He actually would do really well in that offense.
I think he would. I think he would too.
I would probably go watch him play a game down here. That is a good point. Tate may see it better than Jordan because he's a good bit taller. That's fair.
I've really felt like though in watching, because I remember Jordan as a true freshman up here, and even in his early time at Florida State, I felt like you could definitely tell early on they kind of didn't trust Jordan a lot.
Yeah,
in terms of throws and lots of draws on 3rd and 8 and stuff like that. And I didn't see any of that like this year. Like they trusted him to do everything this year. He clearly had done a lot of like the classroom work, the mental work, to where like I didn't feel like they shielded him from anything this year.
Agreed. And it did so much install in spring. I mean, it was a very veteran team. They knew what they had. Like the only real piece that they were going to add late was Keon, right? Who was an excellent piece to add, certainly. But like they got a lot of scheme done in spring, a whole lot, So that was like they had a lot of stuff to throw at you. and still do, I think, honestly. But a lot less so without Jordan.
That was, I think, a lot of what went into the decision for Jack Plummer to come here too. When Jack Plummer enrolls in January, they go to spring. The quarterback already knows the offense.
Yeah.
Instead of everybody having to learn it, the freaking quarterback already knows it, and it just put them that much further ahead in the spring. So, is he a world beater? No, he's not. He's not going to play in the NFL. I don't think. I mean, I don't know. He's not going to play in the NFL. I don't think. You look at the guys that make it, though. For God's sake.
Yeah.
But I don't think he will. But I think the big purpose was to just sort of speed up the install process for Louisville. I think it allowed them to be so much further ahead. Every rep that he was there in spring, like if your quarterback already knows the offense, I mean, how much further ahead could you possibly be?
I think that's fair. Sorry, Graham.
No, man. No, just reading some of the comments, and interesting to hear your thoughts there. So you think you have confidence your offensive line can protect Plummer, give him time? What is your internal thought as to your line and particularly your tackles and tight ends?
Yeah, I think the offensive line has held up better as a pass blocking offensive line, where I think that where they have faltered at times is in running against super active fronts. Like NC State totally messed them up. Mm-hmm. And they're not huge, but they're really good, and it's really weird. But Florida State's huge and good, so it's a little bit more of like a traditional what you're used to seeing, but way better guys doing it, and way bigger guys doing it. I mean, they certainly haven't faced anybody like Jared Verse, for instance.
Yeah.
But they, for most of the game, like for instance, they did pretty well against Deion Walker in Kentucky. Like that dude is enormous. But in crucial moments, they did not. So no, I wouldn't say like I'm swimming in confidence they'll be able to hold up there. But this is where I think running the ball and running it early is going to be vital for them, just to sort of get some of those body blows on Florida State's defense for later in the game. Because in those games where they haven't run it great early, it just becomes kind of a free for all later. You got to get those softening blows in there.
I will say that Florida State, probably for a position coach that's prided himself on rotating players for 20 years, Florida State rotates, particularly on the interior of the defensive line, as much as anybody that I've seen. There's snap counts to give them credit, they've kept a lot of wear and tear off those guys. Florida State in general is banged up, but the defensive line, particularly the defensive interior, is probably as healthy as any unit on the team. And they've kept Bud and I do a snap count draft every year. I'll be fascinated to see where it is, because a lot of guys that I thought would be in the low 600s or something like that, probably 150 to 180 snaps off where I thought they'd be at this point. So just something to keep an eye on as you're talking about a game, like I said at the beginning, we're talking about a 13th game of the year here, and everybody's going to be worn to an extent. But I will give Florida State coaching credit that they brought in a couple extra guys and they've used them well. And Braden Fisk may be one of the better interior players that Louisville will see this year.
If FSU wins, that's definitely, like, if I have to predict what we're talking about on Saturday night, it's, that look, this defensive line is the best D-line Louisville's faced. It's really healthy. They're really ripping right now. And like when I look at Louisville's like stats breakdowns and like where their explosive plays come from, it's, hey, can you limit the explosive plays they create on early downs off play action? Mm-hmm. And then like their pass protection in obvious passing downs, like it's a material drop off, even relative to like the rest of the country, as far as like their sack rates allowed on like standard downs and with play action, as opposed to just like, 3rd and 5+. It's pretty like red across my screen. And like, to me, that's got to be FSU's goal. It's like, hey, do not allow explosive plays on early downs. If Louisville runs for 3-4 yards, whatever, right? Like,
yeah,
they probably won't do that 10 times on a drive down the field. It's a pretty good run game. So like maybe one drive, but like they're not going to consistently go 4-4-4-4. It's, can you limit the explosives early and then get off the field in longer down and distance with the D-line?
Oh, I think you're 100% right. And I think it was kind of funny. I think early in the year when they were still kind of the feeling out, what are these guys good at? that sort of thing part of the offense before. It's pretty obvious Jeff settled on, oh, hey, we're really good at running it. They would have these games where that get into the high 30s and 40s and be like 2 for 12 on third down. Yeah. Like, how is that possible? Because they were just these giant plays, but not especially efficient. And it kind of has sort of started to do this where, like, I think they've gotten better at some of that methodical stuff, but then that has come with the big plays being far less of a thing than they were earlier in the year, especially the big throws kind of over the top. They've really had to work those as a play action thing. Whereas like against Indiana, they had dudes open earlier in the year. I think the other thing with Jack Plummer is you certainly wouldn't look at it and think like this is a guy that's mobile, and he's not crazy. He's not like Calandria or any of that, not like Jordan Travis or anybody. But it does seem like early in games, watch this. This would be something to watch for. Like if he's running because he wants to, things are going well. But if he's fleeing, things are not. And I think there have been times where I think you hear quarterbacks say this sometimes, like running with the ball, kind of getting hit, so sets the pads, you feel good, like he sort of settles you down a little bit. He's one of those guys for sure. So if you get a 3rd and 4 and he gets out of the pocket and converts and keeps them on the field, that sort of thing, you might be getting the good Jack Plummer that day.
Do you feel like they're a good screen team? Because I always feel like Brom teams are good screen teams.
Opportune screen teams for sure. And it might be one of the places offensively where he's most like Bobby, where Bobby was a really good screen, is a good screen coach. And I think Jeff's wide receiver screen game has expanded throughout the year too. They're really good. I tell you what, it's been one of the biggest places that offense is different from Scott to Jeff is the running backs in the passing game, just overall for a guy who loves running backs. Scott was very weird about they just didn't do it. And the checkdowns and design stuff, to the running backs has been a really big part of Louisville's offense. And some of Jawar Jordan's early big plays were catches and screens and that sort of thing. So I fully expect that to be a heavy part of what they do, especially with Florida State being so good and active up front. I think you'll see it early and often if it's working.
Yep. Real quickly, we'll thank 2 of our sponsors. Congruity HR has been a fantastic podcast, to the Nolecast, to the Battles In, to Elliott Smith, and many other different entities that I've been a part of. Fantastic service, great support when needed. Matt Lewis, fantastic Seminole, and been a great asset for the Nolecast. And always want to thank the great people at Madison Social Township and Charlie Park for their long-standing support of the Nolecast. I think this is like the 9th or 10th podcast that Mark has now been up on, as they have sponsored us pretty much since day one. So big thanks to Madison Social as always. And if you're not going to Charlotte this weekend, there is no better place to watch the game than one of the For the Table Restaurant Group properties.
How is the punter? I got to ask about this.
Because I'll get to your punter in just a moment. Since you mentioned, doing this year after year after year, like we've done, I can remember pacing on my back porch and doing this with you guys before the Jameis Thursday night game in 2014, which was a wonderful football game. Like, gosh, what a great game that was. But that's how long we've been doing this, and I appreciate that.
Man, we're so old.
Yeah,
right?
Old. That's the only thing that I can think of there.
Kids now.
Old. Yep.
Yeah, seriously, that's my son couldn't sleep tonight, and I was like, "What's wrong?" He's like, "I'm just not sleepy." I was like, "Is it because you have assembled like a Lego city where you're supposed to be laying your body on the bed?" He's like, "Yes." It's like, okay, and the lights are still on. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right.
Bedtime.
See, you got to be good at analysis in multiple phases of life, right?
That's right.
So, football, identifying problems with bedtime.
You call out the mic. Is that what you were doing there?
Yeah, exactly. Like that's a Lego city, like literally in your bed. So what are we doing here with this? No, I'm just frankly quite annoyed by all these good punters FSU's faced in a row. Like Miami's punter just looked like just Superman out there for the most part, and then Florida's punter is hitting like 60-yard moonshots in the swamp, which is great. Like they played every single punter. No,
okay. Nothing like that at all. And in fact, it's funny. Earlier in the year, Brock Travis that was doing both kicking and punting, and now he's not doing. He's just punting. He kind of played himself out of the kicking role, which he sort of slid into by necessity. And they went to God, this is crazy. This has been a running joke on the show. I'm like, guys, I don't ever pay attention to special teams in the preseason. Like the kickers and punters, I don't learn who they are. I don't know anything until the season starts. I just don't. It's stupid, but I don't. So everyone's been busting my ass because like Brock Travis was really good earlier this year. And then late in the year, like at Miami, he hit an extra point. They blocked it. It looked so bad. They benched him. Like it just, they just put in another dude to kick the kid that had come from Cal. I didn't even know he had joined the team. And he puts him in. He knocks down a field goal. He kicked all the field goals last week. He did fine. I don't know who any of these people are. The backup punter. You don't. Who's Florida State's backup punter?
Shoot, who would it be?
I have no idea.
Louisville's backup kicker is Nick Lopez.
Like they have one, but it's always like, do you trust him to like in a game? Would you let the backup do it, or like do you think they would go to Fitz? Good question.
I'm unaware as to who the backup punter is. I'm staying with that.
One of us.
I love the Dabo Sweeney approach of just grabbing a kicker and then broadcasting it that he hadn't kicked in a year or something, and then asking him to kick a game-winning field goal.
Putting the whole game on his shoulders.
Yeah, that's the approach. That's how I think you should approach special teams. Definitely be like, yeah, kid told me he needed to go kick because he's worried he might tear his hamstring because he hadn't kicked in a year. But no, he's going to be our kicker this weekend. We'll see how it goes.
Sean McDonough, who's so good. Like he wanted so badly for this story to not suck, and like every time we're like, this guy's wearing like a finance bro vest just last week, and now he's kicking, and it's like it just yanks. It's not like two non-competitive kicks, and like he's like, oh, yeah.
To answer your question though, in terms of punting, it is a non-factor. It's not bad. It's not out of this world. Like Louisville's punter last year was that Vassy kid that punted for Colorado this year, who ended up punting a lot. He was really good, and Louisville's punter this year is fine. It's not he doesn't shank them at the worst time. He doesn't boom them. They're just normal. It's just normal.
How big is the snub of Quincy Riley to not be first or second all ACC team? Like what is going on here?
It's the proverbial. Well, first of all, I think this will resonate with your audience. He doesn't play for a school in North Carolina. Where everyone who votes for these things is, for the most part. But it's more than that. It's the proverbial, he doesn't have any stats because they don't throw at him. Like that's how that goes. You guys know what that's like with all the good corners Florida State's had over the years. Like he doesn't have anything because they don't try him. And Kentucky did once, and they worked. And it was like, God, I forgot what it was like when people even try that. So yeah, it was. I think Louisville folks were pretty pissed off. They felt like that was a shoo-in. He's fantastic, and I think he's like a victim of his own success. He doesn't have a bunch of plays because teams just don't try.
Mm-hmm. QBR against a 5.
Wow, I didn't know
on the year on targets. Yeah, that's adjusted yards per attempt 1.6.
Good Lord. Wow.
Yeah. Like,
he's better than I thought. Like, I didn't know it was that good.
I saw David Hale tweeting about it and was like, yeah, this guy is good. I was like, wait, he didn't make first or second. He's honorable mention?
Honorable mention. Yeah.
0% chance that we had, 9 corners ahead of him?
Yeah.
In the league?
But that's where you got to watch and not just go look at the stats. Like I'm a FWA member. I get to vote on the awards. Like they send you the Blitnikoff Award, right? Tallahassee Quarterback Club or whatever it is. Like you get the thing. Here are the finalists, and here are all their stats. Like, Quincy Riley doesn't have any stats, but that's because that's how good he is, not how bad he is. And and North Carolina is just going to vote for North Carolina people. We know how this works.
It's crazy. This conference is.
Well, they don't like y'all, and they don't like us either.
Did you see the tweet FSU sent out?
I did, about the viewership.
Oh, the petty on that was, and we've had some good ones from Nolecast account recently as far as petty, but like this FSU official tweet was. Do you think the chat saw it? All right, if you're listening at home, FSU sent out something that's like, 5 million viewers or whatever against Florida. That's the 5th time this year FSU's crested 5 million viewers. Like that's more than the rest of the league combined in non-FSU games. It was basically just like a
rest of the league combined's coming to 3. So
I know Louisville had one of them.
Yeah, was that Notre Dame?
Louisville does okay. Yeah. Louisville does all right viewership wise. Louisville does good.
They do. I'm much more willing to buy in that Louisville is a decent draw than this idea that Wake Forest is like the fastest growing football brand in the country. I'm like, guys, come on. Like we have eyes. We don't use them to watch your team.
You know what Louisville is? They're not a blue blood or anything like that. They're just over the years, like for 20 years, they've been fun. They've been offensive minded for the most part, except for when Charlie was here. But even then, those teams were fun. They've been fun.
And Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, they've been to Teddy Bridgewater and the freaking game against y'all in the rain in 2002. Like they've been fun. John L. Smith's crazy. Bobby's crazy. Like it's been fun. The games that they don't win, it's not Iowa. These games are going to be in the 40s. It's going to be super fun offensive stuff. It's going to be Lamar. Like Louisville's fun. I think people are like, we'll see how that one's going to go. And like when they get a chance to play teams that people also want to watch, they do all right.
How strong is the Papa John's curse? Is it real?
There'll be a day of reckoning.
I've been eating a pizza every single day.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing, like that whole stadium naming rights deal and how like kind of poorly some of that stuff was executed. That naming rights deal was not with like Papa John's Corporation. It was with John Schnatter.
mm-hmm.
and in perpetuity. Like they were never going to get any more money out of it. Like it was just into eternity. And he has like the Queen's box. Like he has a suite with like these giant ornate gold doors and everything that he still has. And I've never been in there. And I've been.
Does he go to games?
No, not anymore. Not anymore. But like it's still there. You just see it. And it's just kind of like a museum to how it used to be. It's very weird, just a weird thing. Weird. Like with a lot of that when they got that stadium, like because it was just like, God, just get this thing built. And he helped. He was a big help, an enormous help with that. Also, one of the weirdest people you'll just ever encounter. Just golly, man. I've never met anybody like him. Never. Never. He used to like piss off his neighbors, just like fly a helicopter to his house in the neighborhood and stuff like that. Like just a wild dude. Really wild.
That's a pretty good flex, though.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
I mean, just dropping a helicopter.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like 4 miles from here, just like in a neighborhood. And he's just got a helipad. He's wild.
Fan base wise, I assume Louisville fans are over the moon here with this season, despite the Kentucky loss.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, actually, I'll tell you guys, it's been very weird. I've been doing post-game shows for over 10 years now. It was really kind of where I got a foot in the door, radio-wise. And I can remember some really nasty, heated post-game shows. This one was like the tamest, most better, for a freaking rivalry game, freaking Kentucky and all this. I really was like, I need my asbestos headphones for this one. And it was nothing like that. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that for the first time with that rivalry game being at the end of the year, there's another game. And it's an objectively important one that you could just sort of move on to. And it will not like erase the sting of losing this stupid rivalry game to stupid Kentucky, but it'll help. It'll help a lot.
Are you happy Stoop stayed?
Boy, I feel like I'm an asshole if I'm like, yeah, I'm happy that he stayed because they just won again. But man, if I'm him, I feel bad for him. And I mean this sincerely. I feel bad for him because they hired him again. Like Mike Elko is Mark. They are the same dude. And he's done even less. And I think that the Stoops has been really good about like sort of not really whoring out for other jobs or anything like that. And then was finally like, all right, now's the time. And I'm going to take one more shot at places I'm work because he had like kind of that famous rant earlier this year where he's like, if you didn't like how we played against Georgia, pony up, and he was going to go to a place where he would never have to do that. And I understand the allure of trying that. And boy, I really do wonder about, but I've heard you talk about this on the Cover 3 a lot, about life as one of those schools in the SEC when OU and Texas show up and they're divisionless, and Kentucky doesn't have Mississippi State, South Carolina, Arkansas, Missouri every year.
And Vandy.
And Vandy, thank you. Yeah, like that's, although Missouri obviously has been good this year. Give Stoops credit. Even when those schools were on the schedule all the time, they weren't any damn good until he got there. But like they've permanently kind of settled above those places. And the work that he's done there is out of this world. I remember just sort of trying some media stuff for a local organization and going to Kentucky's spring game. There was nobody there. This is Joker Phillips. And I'd never heard of any of these guys that were out there. And none of you have either. And now, they're routinely first-round draft picks, and they're winning 7, 8, 9, 10 games, and they've got a 5-game winning streak against Louisville. They've never had that sort of thing. I think he's a really good coach. He's just in an impossibly difficult. It's the opposite life Louisville lives in the ACC, where it's like for Louisville, you just get marginally better in a handful of things, you're a freaking 10-win team. Yeah. And with Kentucky, if you're marginally worse at like a couple things, you go 7-5, maybe. And that he recruits extremely well for Kentucky, and it doesn't matter in the SEC. Mm-hmm. You don't gain any ground on anybody.
I got into this actually with some Florida fans today on Twitter. You'll be shocked. And they were arguing that if Florida had played FSU's schedule, they would easily be bowl eligible. I was like,
okay, we live this life up here.
Right. And I was like, look, okay, I actually don't completely disagree with that. Like, I think there is some chance that you would be. However, the reverse is not true, right? Like, what is a difficult schedule for, let's call Florida a team that's appropriately power rated somewhere between like 25 and 40, right? Like, they're not a bottom 2/3 team in the country, but they're certainly not a top 25 level team this year.
Yeah.
Like, what is difficult for a team of that level is not the same thing as what is difficult for a team that, like, pre-Jordan injury, most power ratings had them somewhere between like 4 and 10, So like there are different magnitudes of difficulty based on how good you actually are. So like, yeah, would Florida make a bowl on FSU schedule? Probably. Would FSU be losing 4 games in the SEC on Florida schedule? No. Like,
that's right.
We're relatively confident in that. So yeah, it's not exactly the same. Like it's not always the reverse is true,
100%. But I will say the worst part about losing that freaking game is the SEC thing. I saw your shoulders. Yes, this is life, right? You know exactly what I'm talking about. And the ability to sort of, well, it was cute that you guys did that, but once you played an SEC, and it's not true, but what can you say when you lose the freaking game? And so until they change it, you're just going to have to listen to that. And it sucks. It sucks because they don't know shit about football.
Do we need to talk about this playoff ranking thing?
For Louisville?
No, for Louisville, this game actually has some implications, right? Because if you guys win, you go to the Orange Bowl.
If they lose, they go to the Orange Bowl, as long as they don't fall behind NC State.
And if you win, you also go to the Orange Bowl?
Correct. Y'all are the ones that are in the weird position of either going to the Orange Bowl or like the Pop-Tart, the Pop-Tarts Bowl, right? This is sort of high stakes for us.
Would FSU get in that large?
It kind of depends, I think, on the others, right? Okay. Like this is all going to sort of fall together. Like I was mentioning with you when you were on the show with me, which I appreciated. A lot of good feedback on that, but I appreciate that.
I appreciate that.
The fascinating thing to me to watch in this one is if anyone gets any sense that Florida State's playing with like the message they think they need to send in mind, instead of just trying to win the freaking game. Because I feel like it almost never, ever, ever works to try to go out there and like, we're going to send a message. You try to get it all on every play, and it doesn't work. And I will be fascinated to see if the earlier games, if the Pac-12 game was that on Friday, if the earlier games sort of create a scenario where Florida State thinks they have any reason that they need to like send a message or make a kind of impression to make sure they make it, if they press. I don't know. I'm not predicting that, but I think it's just something to watch for.
Is that a Dune reference behind you? Cowboy Bob wants to know.
A what reference? We're talking about No.
Okay.
No, that is Marcus Aurelius. That is I'm a big fan of the Stoics. So that's a love of fate.
Nice.
That's what that means.
I think I really do think, unless they come out there and just look horrendous in a win, which like a 7-3 win with a defensive score or something like that, right? Which, given these two head coaches, I find, even with the weather, to be extremely improbable. Like, when's the last time that Norvell and Braum have not found a way to score some points? Very, very unlikely. I do think FSU is in with a win.
I agree. I think it's hard for me to envision any scenario unless it just feels like they didn't deserve to win, right? Like if they win in some sort of weirdly controversial way or something like that, where everyone's like, man, like that was fraudulent. Like unless that happens, and I don't know, Texas wins the Big 12 championship game like 56-0 or something, then maybe the people will be willing to like be open to the discussion about something like that. But I think if Florida State beats Louisville like they beat Florida, they're in.
I'm sympathetic to the people who are like, hey, we actually do need to evaluate like who's on the team, who we're going to be putting in the dance. If that's what they always did, like Hancock the other night saying, "Oh, we got to pick the best 4 teams." Like, yeah, that's cool if that's your mission statement, but it's been your mission statement for the last 12 years, and it ain't never been the thing you guys do. You pick the most deserving teams, so why are we going to deviate now? I don't know. We'll see.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, at some point, this sounds so stupid to say, but like at some point, isn't the point to like play the games and then
and win them? Yes,
right, and then find out about the teams that win their games. Right, exactly. It's what I hate about this is when we do have this discussion, making Florida State sound like they play in the Sun Belt. You know, like they're Hawaii. Right, from years ago, right? Like as if like we have no idea if they're good or bad just because we think their schedule wasn't that hard, and that's just it's like self-refuting. Yes, it's it's almost like circular. You know, it's like they're not good because they're not in a good league, and they're not in a good league because they're not good. Like it's silly. Yeah. If they win, I think that they're in. But boy, we finally have gotten like close to the closest we've ever been to like a bunch of undefeated teams at the end of the year. But I know you've been calling attention to like teams at the top just didn't get upset this year.
They're 118-2. the preseason top, or sorry, 116-2. The preseason top 15 when favored by 10 or more points. 116-2. Like,
yeah, and you've got Oregon.
And Clemson was both.
Yeah, you got Oregon whose only losses to undefeated Washington. You have Ohio State whose only losses to undefeated Michigan. You have one loss to Texas. You've got undefeated Florida State. I really wish Louisville would. I don't really know how I feel about this. I started to say I wish they were 11-1. It would be good for Florida State. Florida State kind of lost when Louisville lost to Kentucky too. Like this is kind of a tough situation, I think, for Florida State because I think
guys.
I know if they beat Louisville, like people are going to be like, well, they lost to Kentucky last, but if Louisville beats Florida State, people are going to be like, well, they didn't have Jordan Travis. So at least there's no playoff implications for that. People being like, well, that was fraudulent too. Like, I think Louisville just wants to win. I don't give a damn how it goes.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
I want to ask you guys, where has Mike Norvell gotten better? Because I didn't think he was this good like the first year. It was pretty ragged. But I would say really settled in.
Like ballsiness of commitment to the approach.
Okay.
Like I knew guys on that staff. I don't know if we ever said this before on the show, but we could say it. Like they're winning now. It doesn't sound quite as crazy. They lose to Jacksonville State, and some of that staff thinks they're going to get fired. Which is not an unreasonable assumption if you're starting out. Well, they start 0-4, I think, right? And then lose to Jacksonville State. And they were like, Mike came in the next day. Nothing had happened. Same approach, same like ridiculous energy, like he had just drank 3 Celsius back to back before he came in the meeting room. Like, hey, like what a blessing it is to be able to go and attack the day. Like, let's go out there. Like we have so much work we'd like to do, so much room for improvement. Just the like robotic belief in the mission, I think, and not like pivoting and not pivoting and panicking. I think is something that like a lot of people probably wouldn't have had the balls or just the belief to do, right? Hell, I don't know if he knew he would. Like, it's not like he's had adversity like that as a head coach before.
Yeah, that's my answer. As somebody that's gotten a little bit better look behind the program this year, it's just the consistency. It's the same level of energy, same focus. It's there every day. The players know it's legitimate, authentic. He's just pretty. I mean, everybody in this industry is meticulous, or everybody in this industry should be meticulous. The tall guy, Joe,
all the good ones are.
Yeah. Again. But it's there, and it's there every day, and it's kind of like compounding interest that when you just do it enough, it just starts to stack on top of each other, and I think that's what's really taking place there.
He definitely looks like he has command now. You know, I think there was a lot of the trial and error and flailing and trying to get my footing and COVID, which was not easy for anybody, and all that stuff. And now he very much looks like somebody unflappable, you know, kind of at the helm. And it's impressive. No, I've been very impressed with the fortitude, sticking with that and rebuilding that roster. I mean, this looks like a lot more like the Florida State we're used to seeing in my life, at least.
I think being a first-year COVID coach would impact everybody. I do just think that his style was he was the most impacted, because he is somebody that's going to be there every day when you walk in the locker room, and he's sitting there, you know, yelling at you in a loving manner, but he's just there. His energy's contagious. To think of that guy trying to coach via Zoom is kind of hilarious to me.
Yeah.
So
that's a great point. I hadn't really thought about just, style-wise. I was talking to a guy at New Mexico State, and not a guy on the staff, but a guy that, you know, was around there, covers him. He's like, dude, man, Jerry Kill yells the entire 3-hour practice, just screams at these kids, dog cusses them, and then they go up and give them a hug after. Like, there's a certain level of, like, you know, trust and love you got to build up to be able to coach somebody like that hard every single day, you know, and have them like kind of want to swing on you, but also know that, like, you know, whereas like
swing on someone for you too.
Right. Whereas like with Petrino, when it was going good, it was good, but also like clearly, like I think we've all heard some of the stories of when it was, when it was going bad. I don't think you have Jordan Travis, right? If
Petrino
treated people the right way.
You're right.
So,
you know who else is like that? I don't know if you've ever talked to players who've played for him. Todd Grantham. Dude, like, players love that guy. Love him.
Yeah. David Pollock will still talk about that guy being one of the biggest influences on his life.
The Louisville players freaking loved him. And he was like how you were describing Jerry Kill. You know, he would just crush these guys. But then come Saturday, like, they took it all out on everybody else. Like, he was a wild man. Also, funny Todd Grantham story. Saw him in public all over the place for the time that he was here in the same shirt every time. It's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. Like, not like he had
like he owned one shirt, you think, or like he the same model.
It's like he had a going out shirt. No, I'm saying like he had like a going out polo, and like he just had it on. It was like kind of a grayish Louisville polo. Probably like the first one Louisville gave him when he got here. And like every 24 basketball games a year, any kind of media day, all of it, that shirt. It was amazing.
I told you the Tom Herman story about Grantham, right?
Oh, this should be good because Tom Herman's
from the Houston game when you guys had Lamar and they were playing in Houston.
Yeah, I don't remember that one.
So I was at a coaching clinic and I had asked.
I still have the Ed Oliver bobblehead over there from that game. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, that guy did not suck. I was like, all right, so you guys went hurry up to the line and then you drain the clock every time. He's like, right. So we were really impressed by Louisville's blitz packages, and we thought they were actually probably pretty hard to signal in. So we wanted to go super fast to keep Louisville in some basic, like really basic stuff. And then we just kind of hoped that eventually they would just all out blitz. Which
that is perfect. You know, I read the It's Better to Be Feared that Ian O'Connor wrote the book about the Patriots dynasty. And there's a lot in there about Belichick kind of coaching against the other coach and factoring into the game plan and the in-game management some sense of like what the other coach was like, what they could be goaded into, what their proclivities were. And it's funny, Todd Grantham is like they would be like honor killing blitzes, where it's like you did something to humiliate me and now I have to kill you. And it would be outrageous defenses, and blitzes and stuff. And he cost them the 2016 game against Kentucky. Like, it's Todd Grantham's fault they lost that game, 100%. Just outrageous blitzes because he knew he was out of there. And it was like you play some 12-year-old in Germany on Madden or whatever, and they do that stuff. Like, that's what they were doing. So he's a wild one for sure.
Belichick said that he would I think it was Belichick or somebody on the Patriots said that they would chart where the head coach stood normally on the sideline for punt. And then if the head coach was in a weird spot on punt, then they would basically figure some kind of fake was coming.
That's the shame about to the extent that they were cheating to whatever. But it overshadows the fact that like Bill's done a great job with the psychological part of the game. And like, for instance, just goading Mike Martz into being patient in a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Just knowing he would not do that, or looking at Thurman Thomas and be like, I bet he hates blocking. When he was the defensive coordinator for the Giants in Super Bowl 25, like that's to have that level of awareness. And it's a shame that Bobby Petrino was such an asshole because he's that good at that stuff, but he can't get out of his own damn way and just treat people like humans. Like he's every bit as good at breaking down what your defense does, figuring out what your rules are, noticing that this linebacker's terrible at this. There are stories when he was here where they on Tuesdays, here's the game plan, here's film, we're going to show you. And he would tell the guys, like, if you don't score on this play, you'll never play here again. But then they would go out and they would score on that play. And then the guys would talk about it. They're like, we're going to kill everybody. Just the faith building part of that. But he just can't connect to other humans. And it's a shame because it's a waste. It is a total waste. Even for what he has to show for, which has been an amazing career, it's a waste because he could be better. He could be McVay. He could be, these guys. Like but he can't get out of his own way and not be an asshole.
Mm-hmm. I'm just excited we get to use the Ballad of Bobby Petrino again on Cover 3. The amazing song. If you guys you've heard, I know you've heard it.
Oh, I know.
Yes,
yeah. I know all about this. How would you like to be Mrs. Petrino? I mean, not just like in general, but I mean, like in this situation where you have to go back to freaking Arkansas for all this time.
I mean, it's sometimes coaches have to leave a town because of something completely not football related. Never had that happen in Tallahassee. So
no, never.
Do you have now that you've been in the AC? Louisville's been in the AC what, 10 years now?
9 years. In 2014 was for sure.
Do you have a least favorite officiating crew? But I mean, do you have one you picked out? Like, all right, these guys, you just kind of know, like when you see it announced, like it's gonna be they're just gonna be an absolute effing.
No, I'm not that meticulous. I don't pay attention to them that much, but I don't like any of them. If you're asked, you want the truth. If I knew their names, I would say it was the crew that worked the Wake Forest game in 2021. Louisville got called for a block in the back with the right tackle pass blocking because the guy did like a spin move. And it was just kind of a crappy spin move. And he just two-hand shoves the guy's spin move in the back. Like, they never even lost connection. And they get called for
early or late in the year?
Right in the middle.
Is this at Wake?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
I can figure this out, actually.
They snapped the ball.
Strangest things that have ever occurred in the realm of officiating with Florida State have occurred at Wake Forest in about 3 different games.
They snapped the ball, I think, about the 4-yard line with like 4 seconds left on the clock in the first half. Louisville stuffs them. Clock expires. Louisville's like, get to the locker room. They stop, put a second back on, and let Wake Forest kick a field goal. Louisville was by field goal. And all in that game. Just one of the most infuriating games I've ever seen. So whoever the hell those people are, out of here. Close second.
It was
whoever. Good.
Jeff Magallanes
Well, to hell with that dude.
We've seen that crew. They're not our least favorite crew, but they're on.
Who's your least favorite crew?
Oh, Heiser.
Okay.
Don't you think, Graham? Like the crew that they had last week in the swamp is
Who was the one that Jimbo had such a issue with?
Oh shoot. The kind of jacked, bald. Damn
it wasn't Flanagan.
It was Flanagan, wasn't it?
Was it Flanagan? Okay. Yeah.
Because Flanagan did the Nigel Bradham game, right?
Yeah.
The Nigel Bradham game is like a hitting too hard penalty type game back before targeting was even a thing. In like
I remember that.
Was that 09 or 08? I think it had to be 08.
Play Miami in even in odd years, don't you? At home.
Yeah, that's a good point. So it had to be 09.
Yeah.
Home. Yeah.
Maybe 11. Was it 11?
Oh, it was 2011. That was 2011?
Yeah, it's Dawkins, Bradham. Yeah.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. 2011. That was the hitting too hard penalty. That was yeah.
So Mark, if you remember the time Florida State was playing and the ball was moved during a measurement, that was a game at Wake Forest. There's another series of events at Wake Forest where like there's a holding call on a play that Wake doesn't even really try to rush the passer. Like there's some things that happen at Wake Forest that you're just like, what the hell is going on? So yeah, it's when you said that caught my ear.
The one ref tries to bat the pass, which is an awkward.
Yeah, the ref tried to jump
there or like get out of the way. He's
hit
like,
a pass. Some good ones. There's some good
But
ones.
I saw you do that, and I was like, "What's he?" I
Yeah.
didn't realize you were.
Yeah, that they were all within like a 3-year span. I was like, okay, so whatever your projection is for games at Wake, take off like 7 points here. But I do have a theory, and the Duke media got really mad at me for this year, but I think I'm correct. And actually, like, I can prove this statistically now. There is some protectionism for like the more academic, less athletic schools within the league. Like you're not going to get as many holding calls against those guys as you probably should.
Are you trying to say it's like you're mean to them?
Like,
so they're like trying to finger on the scales and sort of like take it easy.
You ever have to do like corporate training? It's like their unconscious bias, right? Like they're trying to protect the weakling team by allowing a certain level of. You're just gonna have to know it. I think you have to coach through it. Like, hey, you're not gonna get these calls, right? It's just kind of like first half this year of FSU Wake was. I mean, both Wake tackles graded out in the single digits on PFF, so it was not a good day for them. Like Verse and Peyton were extremely effective on the day, but it was, Can
I tell you guys something? I didn't miss not playing Wake Forest at all this year, and Louisville does all right against them. But I don't like Dave Clawson. I never have, and I don't like that cheesy shit they do with the slow, elongated mesh thing. Yeah. It's hokey to me. And I'm glad they got their ass kicked a lot this year.
I think he knows his time's up there.
I think so too. I'm surprised he didn't
press
try.
Conferences are different.
I agree. It's almost like the games left me. It's kind of how I feel like he has sounded. And it's weird though because Wake Forest, oddly enough, they have like a ton of really like the good kind of rich boosters that no one's ever heard of.
Yeah.
I vividly remember sitting at the ACC tournament, the Zion Williamson's year at Duke, and Louisville got eliminated, and I stayed because I knew it was going to be Duke, North Carolina in the final. So I stayed. But throughout the game, they're flashing famous alums from every school, and I never heard of any of Wake's at all. But they're all filthy rich. And you would think like the NIL world would be like, here's a chance to sort of flex a little bit. And instead, they wanted even less.
Apparently they have some. Like I was like, yeah, Clawson knows he can't keep guys around now in the NIL era, blah, blah, blah. Like his best players are now playing for Oklahoma, Texas, and Notre Dame. And somebody's like, no, they actually have some, man. Like, so they just misspin it. I don't know. But
what'd you guys make of him trotting out WikiLeaks again to Bruce Feldman after the NCAA got involved with Michigan. He's like, "Where was the NCAA for us?" It's like, your guy did it. It was your guy. Like, what do you want the NCAA to do? It's your radio guy calling other people. Like, it's such a weird thing. And I was kind of disappointed Bruce printed that. I just thought, like, I would just listen. I'm not going to write that up. It's just such a weird victim mindset, and it didn't apply. It wasn't a good analogy at all.
It sounds like an HR issue. You know,
yeah,
like the calls are coming from inside the house, bro.
Yeah, it's your news, your radio color commentator.
Yeah, that is bizarre. That's actually good.
Is Jimbo ever going to coach again? I want to know what you guys think.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I don't think he can quit it.
Okay.
I don't know what form he's going to coach. Like, I do think he loves coaching ball. Would
he be happy somewhere? Would he be happy at like a lower level where it's like not so life and death, or does he need life and death too?
Like if Rich Rod got the Mississippi State job, I could kind of see Jimbo. Like, I think it's probably smart for him to take a year off. A lot of coaches should take a year off after they get fired, like to reassess, go visit some places, see how other teams practice,
recharge a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some of these guys, like, we definitely know they should take a year off to like dry out in some cases, right? Like they serious, substance type stuff.
Sure.
Because the job, like, Jimbo's not in that category to my knowledge, but like, I do think he should take a year off just to kind of go around, like just relax for a little bit. I mean, you have $75 million now additional, but I don't think he can quit. I think he'll be back. Like, even if it's like, I could see him at like Jacksonville State.
I was thinking like in like Middle Tennessee, Stockstill's out of there. Like,
yes.
Something like that.
I think so, but still, like, I bet you.
I think he'd need a Power 5 job, to be honest with you, Mark. I think he would want to land at a place like West Virginia or something like that. Okay. I think Jimbo would have a hard time going anywhere that he knows that he can't at least get some high level recruits there. So that would be my guess.
All right, I want to Ivy League. Like, he runs a super complicated system.
I was going to say, get some quarterbacks that can do all that stuff. No, I think you might be onto something there, bud. What do you think of Syracuse hiring Georgia's corners coach, who'd been there for 1 year?
Reputationally, like, people love Fran Brown, and he's from the Northeast. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, like, it's not possible to do better than Dino did, because I think it probably is on the margins. Like maybe a game a year better, but like they averaged 3 ACC wins. You were in the same league they were in. You're a much better program than Syracuse is in my lifetime. Like, the ACC is a lot harder than the old Big East. Like, I think.
I think you're absolutely right.
In what world do we think it's reasonable to expect 4-4 in the conference at Syracuse? Because Dino was averaging 3 wins. They weren't always pretty. They had some weird losses. They have like no NIL. All their best players like got poached. But I guess if the guy can like recruit locally, and
I don't know, but about the recruit locally thing, like I read his bio when they announced him, and they're like, he's had a success recruiting in the Northeast. And like, if I don't want a dude that can recruit in the Northeast, that doesn't help me at all. I want a dude that can recruit down where all the guys are.
The Holy Cross guy is the guy I would have hired. Bob Chesney. He almost beat Boston College this year.
Or something.
Sure. Like, if you want to go run the triple, I think that's totally fine. Right. Like, Leopold, Chesney, like a guy that's like, okay, some guys just win. They just have a system. They know how to recruit to it, and they're going to win. Like, they're maximizers. They're going to get whatever your program can really bear.
Yeah.
And Fran Brown is risky, but we'll see. I mean, I think we're going to have a lot of turnover in this league in the next like couple of years, probably.
Oh, I think you're right about that. I had no real like feeling about it. I just felt like it was like, let's just get somebody from Georgia. Like, I don't know anything about this guy. I'm just gonna be totally straight with you, and maybe he'll be fine. And if he wanted to jump in line, from a position coach to be a head coach, and Syracuse wants to do that. I mean, here's the thing. I don't have like super firm feelings on it because I don't really know that anyone, like you were saying, that kind of doesn't matter because it's Syracuse. Like there's a ceiling on what this is going to be no matter what. But I just thought it was interesting. They didn't even bother like trying with a head coach or anybody. It was just like, we're just going to try to get somebody from Georgia. Do you guys remember years ago? I cannot remember which. It was Bowling Green. It was Bowling Green when they were like, we got to hire a new coach. And their AD just Googled who has the best offense. And it was at the time, it was Texas Tech and Mike Leach. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
And they started just looking at which assistant coach on Mike Leach's offense they could afford. And they hired his running backs coach.
Yes. What was this dude's name? It was not. It was yeah. It was
Jinx.
not, Jasper Sanks.
No, it was like Bobby Jinx. I think.
No. Okay.
I could be. But that was what I thought of. It's just like, let's just hire the dude from Georgia we can afford. That's what I thought of.
Yeah.
Jasper Sanks was a running back at Georgia at one point, but no, definitely not on the staff at anywhere to my knowledge.
By the way, like Bowling Green, I kind of laughed at the Scott Loeffler hire.
Me too.
He doesn't suck. Like
I know
those guys play hard. Sometimes the quarterback plays like a total idiot, but like the rest of the team plays real. I watch a lot of MAC. It's on CBS Sports Network. You know, we watch a lot of MAC. The defense plays good. Sorry, like we're completely off the rails talking Bowling Green on the Nolcast, but like they play hard, man, and like that defense.
Mike Jinx. Yeah.
Mike Jinx.
By the way, I'll let you finish, but just listen to this. Listen to this run of coaches for Bowling Green. Greg Brandon, Urban Meyer. Heard of him? Urban Meyer, Greg Brandon, Dave Clausen, Dino Babers, Mike Jinks, the running backs coach at Texas Tech. What a disaster.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I don't know how we ended up here at all.
It's always fun. Look, everybody who's still hanging out in the chat is absolutely enjoying this. Do we need to do a prediction? I believe we probably have to. I'm going to go 27-23 FSU.
I think Louisville's going to steal this one.
Okay.
I don't know how. If anything, I think forcing turnovers from Rodemaker. I have this faith in Jeff Brom and these guys in a big game right after they just fell on their freaking faces against Kentucky. I think you're going to get – you watch him on the sidelines, boy, he's wired sometimes, and I think you're going to get that this weekend. He's so fun. He's so different from Satterfield, boy. It's been a whiplash, I think, for everybody. Pleasantly, let me say. But I think they'll get after Rodemaker, and I think that it will feel like they stole it, but I do think that they're going to steal it.
I can buy that. I mean, it does feel kind of
21-17 Florida State.
That's totally reasonable to me. I think that's about where it'll be. But Louisville's done the 5-1 on one-score games this year. Like they'll swim in those waters.
Yeah. I mean, we might have a really, really good game here.
I think it's going to be a fun game. I do. I think it's going to be a good game, and I would love a shootout. I just think it would be fun for this game to be fun for people to watch. Because the ACC championship games has almost never been worth watching.
I totally see what you guys are doing, by the way, with the low scoring. Like bad weather, Plummer's not amazing. Obviously, Rodemaker's a backup. I just like when I put it into my model, like certain coaches just have such high offensive scores that it's like it's very hard for me to bet. Like I bet under in Duke Louisville this year, or Louisville Duke. But like other than that, it's hard for me to like get to unders with these coaches just because they feel like they always find ways to score, and a lot of times like create a freebie, wide open, type explosive play. So yeah, it'll be a test.
I think this one, I think it'll be fun. Like I think we're gonna get both of these guys knowing like they got to have it. You're gonna get scheme wise, and you're drawing up some stuff. There certainly will be things both sides will be like they never did that all year, or they saved that for this one. that sort of thing, like Joey Gatewood throwing a pass or something like that sort of thing. It'll all be there. You'll get a Jeff Brom trick play for this one for sure.
I could see that. The chat does need to know: does Louisville have a problem in bad weather? The sample set is 1, but the Pittsburgh game was not good. So, like, do we think this is a trend, or do we think that's like, hey, turnovers happen in bad weather sometimes?
Yeah, they've played 2 other times in not great weather, and it wasn't nearly as bad as Pitt was. Pitt was a combination of bad weather and that field, which just looks like my backyard.
It's terrible.
It is awful, and Brom was furious. He complained to the league about it afterwards. It was that bad.
But they lost their right guard in the pregame, right?
And he tore freaking ACL in the pregame warm-up. He was Brom was furious about that field. In fact, if you look, if you go watch his Monday press conferences after the next 2 games, he made like passive-aggressive comments about Pittsfield like both times. he's still, you could tell he was really pissed about it like a couple weeks later. So I wouldn't say they had a bad game in bad weather, but 2 other times that the NC State was kind of rainy and kind of gross and weirdly cold for that early in the year. They did okay. They won the game.
Oh, Charlotte is turfed.
They're fine then.
All right.
I didn't know it was turfed. Yeah. When did that happen?
I don't know, but that's what the chat's saying. If you want to have, I got a field that'll make you a run for your money, though.
Okay.
Go watch Oklahoma play at BYU.
BYU's field?
Specifically for that game. I don't know what was going on out in Utah country that time of year. Like, go pull, like, that was like the weirdest looking field I've ever seen for a college game. It's like, this grass looks like my landscaper didn't come this week. It is insane. Like there's like huge bald patches just laid over it, dull blade. No.
Arizona State always has a pretty crappy field too.
They do.
I don't know why.
Tepper installed turf because it's soccer also. Wait, are we sure? I thought. Hold up.
They do host the Charlotte Knights or whatever the soccer team is as well. So yeah, that may be true. I know it was natural grass as recently as 2 years ago, but the soccer team might have changed that.
Hold up. No, I had to look this up because in our model, we actually do care about turf versus grass.
Louisville plays on turf a lot.
Well, and it actually it does impact the numbers when it comes to weather. So
transition to turf in 2022.
Yeah, okay.
Just in time to field that shitty ass Panthers team. Woof. Sorry, I wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, no. It's definitely turf because I've got high res photos here of the North Carolina South Carolina game. Yeah, I remember going through this because we were like, wait, because we found the article and we had it as grass in our system, and then now it is turf. Yeah, okay, that's correct. Sorry, it's a long season, man.
I hear you. Charlotte we haven't had reason to know this up until now.
Yeah, we haven't been back in quite a while, man. It's
2014, right, for Florida State?
The what now? Yeah.
2014 was the last time, yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Well, now Louisville and Pitt have made it since joining the league. Louisville's made as many times as Miami has in 2 fewer decades, or 1 fewer.
That's an excellent trivia question. Yeah.
So is Wake Forest.
Florida's quarterback hit the portal. I'm very concerned about their bowl. Oh, well, never mind.
Yeah, forget that.
Yeah. Ouch. That's pretty bad. What bowls? Ja'Curry Brown's going to play quarterback for Miami. That's the other important update in the bowl game because Van Dyke's bouncing. So
he's going to visit here very soon.
Van Dyke?
Yeah, I think Brom likes him. I don't know how much of what happened this year with them is him, or last year and this year is him, and Mario just sort of beats the hell out of his quarterbacks. I mean, Justin Herbert didn't even look like Justin Herbert, for crying out loud, under Mario. So I don't know, but I think Jeff's probably earned the benefit of the doubt.
If you just grab Mario's quarterbacks in the blind, I bet you're profitable. Like if you're a good offensive coach and you're picking up quarterbacks after they play for Cristobal, Like I almost certainly you're going to play better with the new guy. I would think. And Brom's an excellent coach, so it's going to be an interesting portal market, man, for sure. Like Van Dyke's out there, Leonard, including myself, got like a million crystal balls today to go to Notre Dame. Funny how that works. Immediately announced.
And he was one of those no contact portal guys too. So that was.
Yeah, exactly.
Is this what Notre Dame's going to do now? They'll be like, which senior quarterback do we want this year?
Well, I mean, if you're not going to spend on an offensive coordinator, you might as well spend on a quarterback, right? Like they're saving money with their in-house coordinator promotion. So they could have had Utah's guy if they just spend up.
How is Notre Dame not like? What in the world are we doing?
That's what I'm saying. Like you're hiring a rookie head coach who's a defensive guy. We're not willing to go pony up like 1.7 for Utah's guy. Like what are we?
I mean, how is money a thing for Notre Dame? Seriously,
it's
apparently it is not, but it can't be. Somebody messed up here.
I mean, look, you have the guy at the hockey game. But Utah's coordinator is hanging out with Marcus Freeman at the hockey game in Notre Dame. Like something's weird there.
Do you think they let him expense those tickets?
The what now?
Do you think they let him expense those tickets at least?
Utah, yeah,
and make the guy pay for it. Go Dutch.
Oh man, seriously. Oh gosh. Everybody be safe up there. Obviously, drive safe in the weather. Mark, I assume you are going.
I am leaving after the show tomorrow, and I'll do the show there Friday, and then be there all day Saturday for the game, and come back on Sunday. So I'm going to make a big weekend out of it. I expect there to be a pretty good Louisville contingent there for this one. People are pretty excited about this one, especially because no one has to really save any money for going anywhere for basketball postseason. Like this is your chance to take a trip, for somebody good this year. So I expect Louisville to have a pretty good crowd there for sure.
Nice, man. It'll be a good time. Mark, really appreciate it. You got to plug the show.
We're on 93.9 The Ville here in Louisville, Monday through Friday, 3 to 6. Bud was on today, did great. And you're welcome to listen to us anytime. We'd love to hear from you.
Awesome, buddy. I'll see you guys.
See you, dude.
Appreciate it, Mark.